Back on the old NFL videos now. I'm just gonna do hopefully quick, but probably not too quick. NFL QB tiers. This one has no rookies in it because obviously, rookies. They haven't played in the NFL yet, so I can't exactly rank Tua over someone like Daniel Jones just because he was drafted higher, right? Doesn't make any sense. Also, not the biggest college football fan. Don't really watch it at all. So I honestly have no idea what fucking the college quarterbacks can do. Although I do think Tua's going to be pretty good. Anyway, so let's just get this fucking started off. So, before I get started on where I'm going to put people, I'll highlight like what my things are. So, my top tier is obviously elite. Pretty self-explanatory. So, franchise tier is basically like say, I don't know, the Eagles, right? The Eagles have a good quarterback. He's not the greatest quarterback in the world. I'm just saying this as an example. I'll go into what I actually think about Carson Wentz in a couple minutes. But so, say the Eagles have a quarterback who's pretty good, and makes like 3 Pro Bowls in 10 years. He's pretty good. For the money, he's worth keeping as a franchise quarterback, even if, they think he's not, top 5, top 10 QB, but he's still a franchise quarterback and that they think this guy can get us to a Super Bowl and do just enough to where we can win. So then the good tier would be like, he's pretty good, but you kind of use him as like a placeholder until you can really find your quarterback, or he's good, but the team has a lot more potential if they upgrade at that position. Needs help is basically if he has a lot of help around him, he will have a pretty okay season. So, say, I'm not saying this is where Mitchell Trubisky is going to be, but just to use that as an example. So, when he had, Matt Nagy for the first year, and Matt Nagy was running all these crazy schemes, and he was doing all these awesome things, and he had good help around him, and Allen Robinson, Tariq Cohen. Mitchell Trubisky looked pretty good. Not great, but he looked pretty good. He ended up making it to the Pro Bowl. So even though, he had a lot of help and things pretty much went his way as much as they could, he still didn't look great. Like, he wasn't turning anybody's head with how good he was. Just this tier basically is like, if they have a lot of help, they're okay. But if they don't have, upper tier help, they're going to be shown to be exactly what they really are. And then the poop tier, which is obviously quarterback is not good. They should find a new QB as soon as humanly possible. All right, so let's get this started. So Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's stats for last year, he had a 59.4% completion rating, threw for 3,827 yards, 22 touchdowns, 21 interceptions with a 78.8 QB rating. His interception rate went from 2.9% his first year, his rookie year, to 3.9% last year. His rating his rookie year went from a 93.7 to a 78.8. He went from 27 TDs to 22, and he went from 14 interceptions to 21 interceptions. That is not the way you want your second-year quarterback to grow. Also, his second year, he had Odell Beckham Jr. and a better Nick Chubb, yet still just couldn't hack it. And I don't know if Jarvis Landry was there his rookie year. I honestly don't really remember, but I know he had Jarvis Landry last year too, and he looked bad, even with all that help. But he also had one of the worst coaches I've ever seen. So I'm not completely all out on Baker. I don't think he's, a horrible, horrible quarterback, but I do think he was way overhyped, and he's nowhere near as good as everyone was making him out to be. I'm going to put Baker Mayfield in the needs help category for right now, because I don't know. He got a lot more help and looked worse than when he didn't, but I think he needs good I think he needs a good coach. He needs a good organization behind him, and he needs strong leadership in the locker room. I do not think that the Browns have that. Baker Mayfield, I think he could eventually become a franchise QB, but right now he needs to show me a lot more than what he's doing. So Tom Brady. His stats for last year, he had a 60.8% completion rating, threw for 4,057 yards, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and an 88 rating. I'm going to put Brady in the needs help column. I am not a fan of Tom Brady. I think he is very, very overrated, possibly the most overrated player in sports history, in my opinion. Bill Belichick is the reason why they won all of their Super Bowls. Bill Belichick schemes it to where all of his wide receivers are wide open every throw. 90% of his throws are these little check down passes. I really don't think he's that good. I think Jarrett Stidham or Cam Newton would do just as much, if not better, than he did last year. I don't think the Bucs are going to be that great because say what you want about Jameis Winston. Yeah, he turned the ball over a lot. But Jameis Winston can air the ball down 60 yards down the field. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin want someone who can throw them bombs. Brady's not going to be able to throw bombs. He's going to throw little dump-off passes. And Mike Evans and Chris Godwin probably aren't going to be too happy when they realize that their downfield offense is going to turn into dink and dunk. Don't think they're going to like that. Okay, so Cam Newton, last year his stats, he was hurt all year. So I think he played in 2 games, but I'm not going to count. He didn't have great stats in those 2 games, but I'm not really going to count that. I'm going to put Cam Newton also. I'm struggling with. I don't know whether to put him in good or needs help. I'm going to put Cam Newton in good. His accuracy struggles. He's not a very accurate passer at all, but he has a hell of an arm. He can run. He can evade pocket pressure. He makes things happen. And he's a former MVP for a reason. Even though, they had a great team that year, he really was a man on a mission, and he did great. And I think with Bill Belichick's help, he can be very, 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 very good. But we'll have to wait and see with how these injuries are doing. I really have no idea whether or not the injuries are going to get to him and hold him off for another year. But as of right now, I'm going to put him in the good column. Derek Carr. Derek Carr for me is a franchise quarterback. I don't understand why John Gruden hates Derek Carr so much. I think Derek Carr is an insane quarterback. These were his stats from last year. 70.4 completion percentage, 4,054 yards, 21 touchdowns, 8 picks, and 100.8 rating. Derek Carr is a good quarterback. They don't even have very many weapons offensive besides, Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs. But even then, that's a tight end and a running back. Those aren't exactly number 1 receivers for him to throw to. And he's still, he had he almost had a 3 ratio, a 3-to-1 of touchdowns to interception rate. He had almost 101 rating. He threw for over 4,000 yards on a team that wasn't very good and didn't really have the greatest offensive line. I think Derek Carr is a very good quarterback, and I think with their addition of Henry Ruggs and all the other stuff, people that they keep just bringing in off the street, I think this year is going to be a big year for Derek Carr. He may win Comeback Player of the Year, which could be crazy because, he didn't have a bad year last year, but he certainly, in my opinion, he's a candidate. Carson Wentz. He last year, and keep in mind, Carson Wentz last year was throwing to 8th-string wide receivers, 5th-string running backs, 63.9 completion percentage, 4,039 yards, 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and a 93 rating. Carson Wentz is an elite quarterback. Carson Wentz is a top 5 QB in the league. This year with his wide receivers healthy and getting Jalen Reagor, Miles Sanders is going to have, another year a full year of starting under his belt for this year. I think Carson Wentz and the Eagles are going to be absolutely filthy good this year, especially now that they might be at least a little bit more healthy. It's hard to not be healthier than their team last year where half their starting lineup was gone. Carson Wentz, to me, is a MVP candidate. I'm not even going to call him a dark horse MVP candidate. To me, he just is an MVP candidate. It would not surprise me if he won it just like he should have won it a couple years ago. Dak Prescott. This one's going to be tough for me. Let's look at Dak's former stats. Last year, he had a 65.1 completion percentage. He threw for 4,902 yards, 30 interceptions, 11 touchdowns, and a 99.7 rating. So I was going to put Dak, basically up until a couple seconds ago, I was going to put Dak in the needs help column. Because I think that if he doesn't have all this help around him, he looks horrible. But even though we had a great offensive line, a great running back, and a great wide receiver, he didn't just look good. Like, it wasn't Mitchell Trubisky a couple years ago. He looked very good last year. Granted, he had some... If you watch him, his stats at least looked great. Some of the times watching him, he wasn't doing very much, and a lot of his stats were empty calorie stats. But Dak, I think, is a good quarterback. He's definitely in between good and needs help, but I'm going to err more on the good quarterback because I think, if you give him enough help, he could lead the Cowboys to a Super Bowl if he had enough help around him. And he could possibly win it. I think he's just good enough he doesn't make a lot of mistakes, like a lot of really bad mistakes. And he does make some very good plays, so I'm going to put him in the good. Andy Dalton. He needs help. I'll read his stats, but they're nothing significant really. He had a 59.5 completion percentage, 3,494 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, 14 picks, 78.3 rating, 6.5% sack rate, so he got hit a lot, and he only played in 13 games. I think Andy Dalton is a good quarterback, but lately his team is so bad and has been so bad for so long that I can't justify putting him in good because he has not made anything happen for years. I think that on the team he's on now and with all their firepower, I think he could be just as good, if not a little bit better than Dak Prescott, but I don't exactly have a lot of evidence to argue that point. That's just how I feel about it. Years ago, his first couple of years in the league, he was a solid, really good quarterback. And I think he can definitely do that again now that he's on an actual decent team. But I can't exactly justify putting him in the good category when he had an under 60% completion rating and only threw 2 more touchdowns than he did interceptions. It's not ideal at all. All right, Daniel Jones. I'm going to put him in good. I think Daniel Jones is very good. He definitely needs help, right? But he's not in the needs help category. He needs help in the simple fact that, he plays well, but his team is so bad around him that it just doesn't end up mattering. Doesn't mattering? I don't know if that's a word. But it just doesn't end up matter, right? Last year, these were his stats. Daniel Jones. Hold on, I wrote a bunch of notes and I have just papers and papers on my wall. I have to just look through them. Oh, there he is. So he had a 61.9% completion percentage, threw for 3,027 yards, 24 TDs, 12 interceptions, 87.7 rating, and a 7.6 sack rate. 7.6% sack rate. Derek Jones is a good quarterback. I think he's a very good quarterback, actually. All of his receivers were hurt last year. Sterling Shepard was hurt. Evan Ingram was hurt for a while. Barkley was hurt. Daniel Jones, I think, I don't know about this year because they have a brand new coach and they have a bunch of new people. And obviously with the whole pandemic situation, I don't know if they're exactly going to have the best OTAs and training camp and ways to figure out their playbook and all get the chemistry with each other. But even that being said, I think he'll figure it out soon. And within 2 to 3 years, I believe he can definitely achieve franchise quarterback. But you have to wait and see, and he's got to stop fumbling the ball. Sam Darnold. I'm going to put in good. Arguably, I think Sam Darnold will be a franchise quarterback soon, but his team is so bad. His offensive line is so horrible. He gets hit, 55 times a game. It's just, I feel so bad for him. But he's accurate. He makes good throws. He's smart. He knows what he's doing. He's big. He can see everything. He's a really good quarterback. Just he plays for the Jets, and the Jets really know how to eviscerate someone's talent. But Darnold's stats last year, he has 61.9% completion percentage, 3,024 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 84.3 rating in 13 games. I think Sam Darnold is going to have a hell of a year this year. I think he's going to do really good. Le'Veon Bell, I think, is going to get more comfortable in the system. They got a couple wide receivers or linemen, I think. I'm not really sure what they got, but they got some key pieces that they need. I think they're going to be good. Dwayne Haskins, he's going into needs help. Dwayne Haskins' stats last year were not pretty. Let me see here. 58.6% completion rating, 1,365 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 7 picks, 76.1 rating, a 12.5% sack rate, had 7 starts in 9 games. That's bad. Especially that sack rate. Wow, that's crazy. I feel bad for Dwayne Haskins. He plays for the Redskins. The Redskins are not a well-run organization. They have not been a well-coached organization. They have not had good players for a while. Team is just a dumpster fire. His stats want me to make him put him in the poop category, but last year was his rookie year and he was thrown to the wolves. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and put him in the needs help category for now. Drew Brees, elite. Even with his age, Drew Brees is elite. Last year he had 74.3% completion percentage, 2,979 passing yards, 27 touchdowns on 4 interceptions, almost a 7-to-1 ratio. And he had 116.3 rating in 11 games. Yeah, that's incredible. Yes, I know there's the system and Michael Thomas and all their good players, and they have the great line and great running backs and everything, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, but even when he didn't have all that, he was still fucking great. And even with his age, he's still great. Drew Lock. I'm going to put Drew Lock in the good category. Drew Lock led the Broncos in his rookie year. When he was played, he had a 4-1 record. That's pretty good considering the Broncos were not very hot last year. Drew Lock had a 64.1% completion rating, threw for 1,020 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 picks, 89.7 rating. Drew Lock, this last year, they didn't have the greatest team, but he looked good. Me watching him play, even though his stats don't really tell you a lot. His stats don't seem very good, but watching him play, you can really see that he's a good quarterback, and he's going to do great this year. He is a dark horse MVP candidate, in my opinion, because I think the Broncos are probably going to make the playoffs. They got Jerry Jeudy. They got Melvin Gordon now. Drew Lock just got a lot more help on top of an already great defense. The Broncos, I think, are going to go places next year. So for my next quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm going to... I don't know. He's either in the needs help or the good category. I don't know exactly which one I want to put him in. Because Ryan Fitzpatrick, every year it seems like he goes crazy, and then the next year he's horrible. And then he goes crazy, and next year he's horrible. But last year, on one of the worst rosters I've ever seen, Ryan Fitzpatrick outdueled Tom Brady in Foxborough and led a game-winning drive for the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to put Ryan Fitzpatrick in good. Okay, I think Tua's going to be their franchise QB, and he's going to be better in the long run. But I think sticking with Ryan Fitzpatrick right now, definitely not a bad idea. He's going to be a really good teacher for Tua, I believe. Last year, we'll look at his stats. They're all over the place, but we'll look at him. He had a 62% completion rating, threw for 3,529 yards, 20 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 85.5 rating, had a 7.4% sack rate, and had 13 starts in 15 games. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I may be a little biased. You know what? Actually, I am going to put Ryan Fitzpatrick in the needs help. I can't justify, having him better than, Baker Mayfield and Brady. I think as of right now, he's playing better than them, but I don't really know. It just seems a little weird to put him there. Um, I like Ryan Fitzpatrick though, but I really don't think he's that good of a quarterback. I think he's just very streaky. And next year, or this year, I should say, I think he'll probably play like 2 games and then Tua will start, and I think Tua will do better. But this is a very fun man to watch play the sport. Okay, Jared Goff. Jared Goff is a franchise QB in my opinion. I think Jared Goff's a very good quarterback. Very underrated. People really hate him and give him a lot of shit that I don't think he really deserves. I think he does everything he can, if not more. Last year, his stats were 62.9% completion rating, threw for 4,638 yards, 22 touchdowns, 16 interceptions with an 86.5 rating. He's already taken them to the Super Bowl. Granted, you could say that was because, they had Brandon Cooks and Todd Gurley and Aaron Donald and all of these players. But he took them to the Super Bowl, right? He's a good, really good quarterback, I think. Yes, he is in a great system too, but I think he's definitely a franchise quarterback. The Rams would be really dumb to get rid of him. Last year, he had a lot of passing yards, but his stats don't look that great in the touchdown to interception ratio or whatever. But also last year was that Super Bowl hangover in LA. The whole Todd Gurley situation was messing with everybody. This year, I think the Rams will better handle themselves, and I think Jared Goff will have a much better year next year. All right, Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston's needs help. Cannon arm, athletic. Throws too many. I'm just going to read these stats. This is all I have to say on why Jameis Winston needs help. And this needs help, as I explained it earlier. I'm going to explain a little bit differently now. It's a very broad category. So Jameis Winston doesn't need help in the same way that, Andy Dalton did. Because Jameis Winston had Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, and Chris Godwin. And he still was fucking wonky last year. He had a 60.7% completion rating, threw for 5,109 yards, 33 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, 12 fumbles, 84.3 rating. Jameis Winston needs a really great coach to really tell him yes. He needs a coach that will sit him on the bench for a year and just say, do everything Drew Brees is doing, and then you'll be good. And that's exactly what I think Sean Payton's going to do for him. I think after Jameis Winston's brief stint he's going to have in New Orleans, he's going to go somewhere, and I think he's going to be a lot better. But as of now, he needs a lot more help before I can say he's exactly a good quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm going to say Jimmy Garoppolo is a franchise QB. He took the night. Last year was Jimmy Garoppolo's first ever season starting the whole season. First time ever. And they went 13-3. Okay? Last year, he had a 69.1% completion rating, 3,978 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and 102 rating. Yes, I know. Jimmy Garoppolo was in Kyle Shanahan's system. He has George Kittle. He had Emmanuel Sanders. I get that. All right? He had Deebo Samuel. I get that, right? But what did he do with that? He took them to the Super Bowl. He had a couple amazing games where he threw for four touchdowns and 350, 400 yards, right? Anytime they really needed him to help other than the Super Bowl, he did do it. Granted, yes, he threw a lot of dumb interceptions, at least once a game. He'll get his interception out of the way early in the game, and then it's like after he throws his first interception, he gets more comfortable or something. It's really weird watching him play. But I think last year was his first season ever starting fully. He led him to a 13-3 record, had a 2-1, over 2-1 touchdown to interception ratio, almost threw for 4,000 yards, led his team to a 13-3 record, at his almost 70% completion rating. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a franchise quarterback. Now, I could change that down to good later on, but as of right now, I'm going to have him in franchise because I think that with one more year, with that last year under his belt and all that experience that he had, next year, I think he's going to be very, very good. And if there's a deep ball down the middle to win the Super Bowl, I think he probably will hit that next year. But to be determined. Josh Allen. Josh Allen is in. He's as of right now, he's either a franchise QB or a good QB. His legs are that of a franchise QB. His arm is that of a franchise QB. His accuracy and decision making is that of a needs help QB. But I think with Stephon Diggs coming in, you know what? I'm gonna put Josh Allen as a good QB. I do think that by the end of this year, he's gonna go right off the charts, and they're gonna look at him as in improving a lot again, and he might, be a franchise QB or even an elite QB if he really gets that much better. Josh Allen last year, 58.8% completion rating, not very good. 3,059 yards, 20 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. He had a 3.8% interception rate his first year. Last year was a 2.0 on 141 more passes. That is a huge increase and a huge improvement over where he went from his rookie year. And he had 510 rushing yards with 9 rushing touchdowns and 85.3 passer rating. Josh Allen's a really good QB. He's just really young. I think he is going to be a franchise QB, but I don't exactly know yet. Now that he has Stephon Diggs and the team is more respected and they're not like a dark horse and we know that what they can do, this year is really going to predicate what I think happens to Josh Allen in the future. If they go like 6-10 this year, he's probably going to get dumped. If they go like 10-6 and make the playoffs, he might end up being the QB that they signed to a long-term deal. But we're going to have to wait and see for that. Kirk Cousins, franchise QB. I think Kirk Cousins is great. I know everybody shits on him, say he can't play on Monday night. But Kirk Cousins is a really, really good QB. Last year, he had a 69 point... I think that's 69. It could be 64. It's either 64.1 or 69.1. Hold on, let me look up Kirk Cousins' stats real quick. I can't read my own handwriting. Sorry. Kirk Cousins, football quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. Oh, come on, Jesus Christ. Fucking, how come every time I try to go on this, it gives me the one stat I don't need? 69.1%. Okay, that's what I thought. It has 69.1% completion rating. He threw for 3,603 yards, 26 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, a 107.4 rating, and he only played in 15 games. Those are close to elite numbers, really. But because of all the help he has around him, I don't know if it's really that he is that great or if it's just help around him, but the way he handles having all that help around him and still pulls off all that and still looks good and never really, has the worst games humanly imaginable. I think he's a franchise quarterback and he can stay with them. And, the Vikings really, they do have a roster that could get to the Super Bowl any year. But we're going to have to see what happens now that Stefanski, I think his name is. Stefanski. Now that Stefanski's gone, we're going to really have to see what goes on with his offense. Hold on, I got to pause this, but I don't know how to pause it. Hold on. Alright, sorry about that. I had a phone call I had to take. But alright, what was I talking about? Kirk Cousins? Okay, I don't remember where exactly I was at with Kirk Cousins, but just know Kirk Cousins is a good QB. He's a franchise QB. He gets a lot of hate that I think is very unwarranted. I think he's good. Alright, so next quarterback, Kyle Allen. I mean, there were games last year where he looked good, but he was a complete game manager. Never really did anything special. He never did anything special, so I have no idea where to rate him. I guess I'm going to put him in poop. I don't know. I don't think he's that bad. But after they played the Niners last year, just his whole career seemed to go downhill. Last year, he had a 62% completion rating, 3,322 yards, 17 touchdowns, 16 interceptions with an 80 rating. Oh, that's not bad. Hopefully he needs help. Yeah, he just needs a lot more coaching. He needs to get older. If he has a year like he did last year, this year with Washington, then he's firmly in the poop category, but he's still young. Got to see where it goes. Kyler Murray, franchise QB. He's great. I thought he was going to suck, as you can see from my videos last year. He doesn't. He's good. And now that he has DeAndre Hopkins, he's probably going to be real good. So last year, Kyler Murray had a 64.4% completion rating, 3,722 yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 picks, 87.4 rating, had an 8.1% sack rate, 544 yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns. As a rookie, with a rookie head coach, with just about no help around him. And he did that. Against the San Francisco 49ers, he threw for 4 touchdowns, had like 300 yards, and like 70 rushing yards. Franchise QB. Dark horse MVP candidate too. Lamar Jackson. Elite. Just won the MVP, so he's elite. I'm just going to read this stat line. And if you didn't pay attention last year, let this refresh your memory. 66.1% completion rate, 3,127 passing yards, 36 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, which is a 6-to-1 ratio. 113.3 passer rating, 1,206 rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns in 15 games. His rookie year, he had a 58.2% completion rate compared to a 66.1 last year, and his passer rating went from an 84.5 rookie year to 113.3 rating. Those are elite numbers in just about every category, other than passing yards, right? 66% completion rate, that's great. 36 touchdowns, great. 6 interceptions, great. 113.3 rating, great. 1,206 fucking rushing yards, unbelievable. 7 rushing touchdowns. Amazing. In only 15 games, too. Dude is elite. Now, I am a little bit worried that eventually they're going to figure him out. But as of right now, nobody's figured him out yet, so he's going to be in the elite category. Also, if he improves anywhere near the same way he improved from rookie year to last season, he is going to be just an absolute madman for a long, long time, and I can't wait to see it as a Ravens fan. Very excited to see what the future holds for Lamar Jackson, and I can't wait to go see a couple more games and see him juke defenders out of their cleats like last year. Gardner Minshew, last year, 60.6 completion percent, 3,271 yards, 21 touchdowns with 6 interceptions, 91.2 rating. He had 12 starts in 14 games. He's good. Gardner Minshew's a good quarterback. I think he's a very good quarterback. I think he had no help last year. Still led a couple game-winning drives. Still looked great. Still had almost a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He's just good. And he's kind of like a big meme, so nobody really looks at him as being a good quarterback. But if you were to watch those games last year, he really took control out there. And I think the Jaguars tanking for Trevor Lawrence, which is what it looks like they're doing, I think is kind of a mistake because Gardner Minshew, I think, could be a franchise QB if they really gave him a chance. Nick Foles. I'm going to put Nick Foles in good. Yes, I understand. Last year, he did not look great. He got injured, came back from the injury, did not look great at all. Other than being in Philadelphia, he's never really looked great. But this man threw for 400 yards in the Super Bowl against a Bill Belichick team. I think he threw for 4 touchdowns. A Super Bowl MVP for Philadelphia. He's a good fucking quarterback. And I think now that he plays for the Bears, Matt Nagy is going to finally dump Trubisky. He's going to see Nick Foles and make him into what he was in the Eagles organization. And I can't wait to see how they are with an actual competent QB. I really cannot wait to see it. Pat Mahomes, elite. Yep. Best quarterback I've ever seen. He is the most talented QB I've ever seen with my own two eyes. 65.9% completion rating. 4,031 yards, 26 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, 105.3 passer rating, and he didn't even fully play 14 games last year. Dude is an absolute animal. Super Bowl winner. Beast. Just signed a 10-year contract, for Christ's sakes. He is ridiculously good. He should be in a category all to himself. Phillip Rivers. I would have Phillip Rivers as a franchise quarterback a couple years ago. Last year, I would have had him as a good quarterback. Right now, I'm thinking he needs help, but I am going to put him in good because I think that playing for the Colts with that beefy offensive line with T.Y. Hilton and Marlon Mack and Eric Ebron, I think still plays for them, but I'm not really sure. It could just be Jack Doyle now. The Colts are, in my opinion, dark horse Super Bowl candidates this year. They have the best offensive line I've ever seen. I think, I can't think. Quentin Nelson, their guard. I think he is probably the second best NFL player in the league right now. He's just an absolute animal. I'd probably have Quentin Nelson at third. I would have Aaron Donald. I'd have Mahomes 1, Donald 2, and then probably Quentin Nelson. I know a lot of people are like, you would have a guard as the third best player in the league? Yeah. Yeah, I would. Quentin Nelson, I don't think he's given up a sack in his last 30 games, and he's only played 2 years. Dude is an absolute animal. Phillip Rivers, I think, is going to be great for them, but I am still a little bit worried because last year, even though they had, all the talent that the Chargers have, he didn't look great. But I think it was just time for him. His time in San Diego or Los Angeles now ran its course. I think he's going to do good for the Colts. Aaron Rodgers. I don't give a shit what you want to say. The stats are going down. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. Oh, do you see him against the Niners? And blah, blah, blah. Stop. He's an elite quarterback. Still, to this day. Look at that mustache. You can't have that mustache and not be an elite quarterback. All right? Aaron Rodgers had this one throw last year where he sidearmed it, and then it just angled. It went all the way up to the right and then angled back down, left, and in. And the craziest thing I've ever seen, and only he can do that, and the fact that he's still doing it just blows my mind. He just needs a little bit of help. But he has Davante Adams. Yeah, Davante Adams was hurt like half the season last year. He was throwing it to Allen Lazard and Marquise Valdes-Scantling. And still doing good. His stats last year were 62% completion rate, 4,002 yards, 26 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, so almost a 7-1, and he had 95.4 rating. Aaron Rodgers may not have had the greatest season last year, but he is an elite QB. And besides Mahomes, probably the best talent I've ever seen at the position. I mean, I would say Peyton Manning's a better quarterback, but when it comes to just pure throwing the ball, Rodgers, I would say, is better than Peyton Manning. Ben Roethlisberger. See, I have no idea how Ben Roethlisberger is going to be this year because he didn't look too hot in the 2 games he played last year. He doesn't take care of himself. Their team looked like crap all offensively, at least looked like crap all year. I have no idea. I'm probably going to put Ben Roethlisberger in the good category, but that might turn into needs help, or he could revert back to his old self and be franchised to elite. No idea. We'll have to wait and see. Russell Wilson, elite. Russell Wilson is the shiftiest motherfucker I've ever seen. You can't sack him. He's deadly accurate, and he just wins. He just wins, and his coach doesn't let him throw the ball very much, and he wants to run the ball all the time. Dude, you have Russell Wilson. Let him throw the ball 45 times a game. That's what he deserves that right, and you'll win a lot more if you do that. His stats last year, 66.1% completion rate, 4,110 yards, 31 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, 106.3 rating, 342 rushing yards, and 3 touchdowns. Russell Wilson is insane. And that's with, his number one receiver was what? Tyler Lockett was his name? Sorry. Sorry about that. I just had to sneeze. No, it wasn't even Tyler Lockett. It was somebody else. Oh, no, it was Tyler Lockett because Doug Baldwin was a couple years ago. His best player was Tyler Lockett. Nobody knows who Tyler Lockett is. He had Jacob Hollister as his tight end. All of his running backs got injured. He has a horrible offensive line. Yet, watching him play against the Niners, dude is absolutely remarkable. Unbelievably good. All right, Matt Ryan. Oof. Matt Ryan with Kyle Shanahan, elite. Matt Ryan without Kyle Shanahan, franchise. I know Matt Ryan hasn't made the playoffs in a couple of years. Ever since that Super Bowl, he hasn't looked too hot. At least that's what they want you to think. But look at these stats from last year. 66.2% completion rate, 4,466 yards, 26 touchdowns and 14 picks, a 92.1 rating, and he only played in 15 games. Matt Ryan is a franchise quarterback still. He will be until the day that he retires. Matt Ryan is a tremendous quarterback talent, and I feel bad for him that his team sucks really bad. I feel bad. Matthew Stafford. Elite. I don't want to hear it. Matthew Stafford's never won a playoff game. Matthew Stafford gets hurt a lot. Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is a fucking animal. He's an animal. I'm just gonna read off. These were his stats last year. 64.3% completion rating. He threw for 2,499 yards, 19 touchdowns and 5 interceptions with 106 rating, and he didn't even play a full 8 games. If you were to say he were to have been healthy all season and we just keep this trajectory, right? He would have thrown for 4,998 yards, 38 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. Matthew Stafford is elite. Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones Jr. are good receivers, but they're not great. TJ Hawkinson looked like he was going to be very promising, didn't turn out to be anything. Kerryon Johnson, who the fuck knows? Offensive line, horrible. Defense, horrible. Matthew Stafford has had nothing but horrible players, at least relatively. Horrible. No help around him his entire career. Yet, he still always looks amazing. And he's always he's a great... That game against the Browns where they separated his shoulder, I think this was his rookie year, and then he comes back in after a timeout with a separated shoulder and throws a touchdown pass to win the game with no time on the clock. Ever since then, I've respected Matthew Stafford, and I will never stop. He's the most underrated quarterback I think I've ever seen. I think he's great. I really do. I really do think that Matthew Stafford is an elite quarterback talent, and I feel really, really bad for him. All right, so this guy, Ryan Tannehill, that's who that is. Ryan Tannehill's good, okay? 70.3% completion rating, 2,742 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 picks, 117.5 rating, that's crazy, and only 10 starts in 12 games. Ryan Tannehill's good. I don't think he's franchise or elite, but I think he's a very good quarterback. Now that he has a little bit of help, he's really showing exactly what he can do, and now he's not playing for Miami where, they're getting blown out every game. I think Ryan Tannehill is a good quarterback, and he's going to enjoy probably a couple years in Tennessee. I don't think he's anything special or anything, phenomenal, but I do think he's going to lead them to a good amount of wins. But say they do fall in the draft, maybe get, if there's a chance for them to get Trevor Lawrence, they should get him instead. That's what I think about Ryan Tannehill. He's great. He's good, but if you can get a better quarterback, do it. Don't worry about it. Teddy Bridgewater. Good. I think Teddy Bridgewater is a good quarterback. I don't think he's really shown or proven that much. But last year, I mean, he filled a role. He filled it excellently. In 5 games last year, Teddy Bridgewater had a 67.9% completion rate, 1,384 yards, 9 touchdowns to 2 picks, and a 99.1 rating. Granted, he had a great offensive line, great running backs, good tight end, great receivers, but he still got to throw him the ball. And he did. And I think he's going to do fine in Carolina. I'm not saying he's going to be, a legend or a Hall of Famer, but I think he's going to do good for them. Mitchell Trubisky, poop. Mitchell Trubisky is poop. 63.2% completion percent. 3,138 yards, 17 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 83 rating. That's with a crazy amount of talent around you and Matt Nagy. Yeah, I can't wait for Nick Foles to start and for us to really see what the Bears can actually do if they had a good QB talent. I've never seen somebody miss more wide open throws or make so many mistakes as Mitchell Trubisky. It really is hard to watch. I honestly don't understand why they've been sticking with him as long as they have. Tyrod Taylor, he needs help. He hardly played last year, so I can't really get a good sense of where he was from last year. But the only season where he started 15 or more games, he had a 61.7% completion rate, 3,023 yards, 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 89.7 rating. That was in 2016. I think Tyrod Taylor's a good quarterback. He's a good veteran quarterback. I think he's good for the locker room. People like him. He's a good leader. I think he's going to teach Justin Herbert a lot. And being around the Chargers with all of their crazy amount of talent, Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler and Hunter Henry, and not even to say the defense, I think Tyrod Taylor's going to do fine next year. I think Justin Herbert's probably going to start about halfway through the year, but if they have Tyrod Taylor starting for a while, I don't think it's going to hold them back. Let me just put it that way. Deshaun Watson, elite. Deshaun Watson's elite. Last year, he had 67.3% completion rate, 3,852 yards, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 98 rating, 413 rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns, and a receiving touchdown. And that's with no offensive line, no running game, and really all of his other wide receivers are always hurt except for DeAndre Hopkins. Granted, DeAndre Hopkins is the best wide receiver in the league, so that helps. But Deshaun Watson is just a magic man, always evades pressure. Even with a horrible offensive line, he evades the pressure, gets around people, runs, gets great throws. His eye looks like it's falling out of his head, still throws the game-winning touchdown pass. Deshaun Watson is an absolute monster, and I think that he's great. So, I mean, this is my QB tier list. Not in any particular order, but this is where I would have them as of now. These two lanes, basically, these two tiers, a little bit interchangeable, really. I mean, you can make a case. Obviously, no one's going to say Brady's poop. I don't think he's great, but maybe I'm biased. But, someone like Kyle Allen or Tyrod Taylor or Dwayne Haskins, you could say they're poop. You could say someone like Baker Mayfield. A lot of people think he's a franchise QB. But this is, with my eyes, this is where I think the quarterbacks would lie. Some of them are more projections. So, like, Drew Lock last year didn't have great stats, didn't look fantastic, but it was his rookie year. I think he's going to be a lot better this year. Same with Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold, and even, guys like Nick Foles. Nick Foles played horrible last year when he, actually had a collarbone. And Cam Newton looked terrible last year before he got injured. But really, I think this is going to be kind of where they'll be for next year. I think Baker Mayfield is going to have a good year, so he's definitely going to move up, I think. Um, the rest of them, I think this is a pretty good. This is where I would put all these people. Some of them, you could make an argument, that Matt Ryan is elite. You can make an argument that Matthew Stafford isn't. You can make an argument that Drew Brees isn't elite anymore. I beg to differ. I think they're both elite. I think they're great. This is just my list. If you guys disagree, which I'm sure it's a pretty controversial list, the fact that I have Tom Brady almost at the bottom and have Matthew Stafford almost at the very top. But that's the way I'm going to play it. That's what I think. Yeah. Actually, you know what? Before I go, I'll do this. I was going to go through and then rank each one individually. Like, say, if Carson Wentz is fourth best, I'd move him over here or whatever. But I'm just going to do that with the elites. Because it's going to be really hard to argue, whether or not Dwayne Haskins. I just really don't want to rate these two against each other. Dwayne Haskins and Mitchell Trubisky. It's the last thing I want to do. Anyway, so Pat Mahomes, number 1. He's the best quarterback in the league. Number 2, I would probably have Russell Wilson. 3, Carson Wentz. 4, Lamar Jackson. 5, Deshaun Watson. I'd probably have Rodgers 6, Brees 7, Matthew Stafford 8. I think those are my top 8 quarterbacks in that order. Subject to change. Maybe Deshaun Watson kills it this year, goes up to number 3, or maybe Russell Wilson falls behind Lamar. To be determined. Lamar Jackson, if he keeps it up, he will be right behind this bad boy Patty over here. If he even improves a tiny bit. Like, if his stats, if he has 1 more yard in each category, that shows that not only can he do it again, but he is still improving. I will have him in second, but I just don't really, I have to wait and see with Lamar whether or not they have adjusted to him. And I don't think that they have yet, but still have to wait and see because we've never really seen somebody like him before. And it's crazy, but we're going to have to wait and see how it goes. But all right, so yeah, that's my QB tier list. If you guys want to yell at me, just comment and yell at me. Or tweet at me and yell at me. Do it. You know what? Do whatever it is you got to do. Chances are you're probably going to disagree. But Matthew Stafford, I will argue any day, deserves to be in the elite tier. And that's all I have to say about that.